Good evening, folks. Welcome, Creative Financing with JB. I got two important guests we have today from us. We have our Lieutenant Governor candidate, retired Colonel Debbie Harrington. We got NABVETS Commander, y'all know Rodney Little, and we're gonna sit down and we're gonna illustrate some stuff on this. This is gonna be a veteran podcast today. This is gonna be some things that happen in the community, from what we need to do, how we need to support our veterans, what's going on out here, and how we can be a benefit to it. But I'm gonna take the opportunity now that I'm gonna let Dr. Harrington introduce herself, tell you a little bit about her, a little bit about her career, and then we're going to go ahead and let Rodney tell you a little bit about his military career as well.
Well, thank you for that, Johnny. Hello, Johnny, and hello, Rodney.
Hello,
thank you for having me on this podcast. And I'm going to tell you just a little bit. We'll start off by telling you just a little bit about me, and we can talk more about it as we go through the podcast. But I am Dr. Debbie Harrington, U.S. Army Colonel, retired from the Army after doing 25 years in the service. Yes, absolutely. But I'm also a mother. I'm a wife and mother of 3 adult children. I have the youngest of which has exceptionalities. So they're all adults, but she's still home with mom and dad. I spent 25 years in the service. I went in as a second lieutenant, came out as a full colonel, a logistics officer, port operator, a combat veteran, systems integrator. I had quite a few experiences in the Army. Of course, I spent enough time there, so I had a lot of different experiences there, and we can talk more about that in detail. But after I came out of the Army, I really retired earlier than I had planned to retire, because I got out to get my daughter the youngest daughter to a school for the blind. So had I not decided to do that, I probably would have been. I was tracking very well to become a general officer, doing the right things, holding the right positions. I'd been to War College. I was in a joint assignment. So I was doing the right things to become a general officer, but I felt that getting her on track education-wise was much more important. She had a life to live, so I wanted to do that. So I got out and eventually came to Delaware. And still getting her in the right schools, getting a quality education for her inspired me to now be a candidate for lieutenant governor. But really, she inspired me to get involved in politics and legislation, and making sure that students, it started off with making sure that students who are visually impaired had a quality education, and it has just morphed into so much more than that. And now at this point, as running for lieutenant governor.
That is outstanding. Go ahead, Mr. Little.
Can you hear me, Johnny?
Yep.
Well, I don't know much to say, Johnny. I was on your show before, so what should I say about myself? Being a retired Sergeant Major in the United States Army, retired FOP president, just trying to make sure that our veterans community gets served, for the brave men and women who made ultimate sacrifices. I'm here as the commander of NABVETS, which is a national organization of Black veterans, to make sure I advocate on behalf of Black veterans, their claims, although we have our membership impacts all ethnicities. We just want to make sure that we take care of our men and women who sacrificed and served in this country.
That is awesome. That's awesome. And like I said, we're just gonna talk about some things about our veterans today. They served our country, as you heard Dr. Harrington and Mr. Little said. They have been viable, but they need some attention now. They have did their duty. They have stood out, and we're just gonna pour some needs of these veterans out here we know housing and stabilization, stuff like that. If you had to say veterans right now in Delaware, what do they need? I mean, if somebody wanted to say, hey, how can I help the veterans? What would you tell them?
So, well, and I won't. We'll talk through it all, but
Yeah.
So we have upwards of 70,000 veterans in Delaware.
Wow.
And so one of the main things that we need, and I'm sure Rodney will add even more to this, but we need to start with the office that serves the veteran. So we have an office of veteran services that needs to be staffed appropriately.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they have veteran service officers in that office. And for those 70,000 plus veterans, we have maybe 6 or 7 veteran service officers who are responsible for caring for the health, the education, the housing, employment, whatever it is they need. They are responsible for connecting those veterans to the state and federal resources. Well, can you imagine if we only have 6 or 7 of those VSOs to respond to 70,000 plus veterans?
Wow.
It's inconceivable. And it's not probable that we will meet the needs of all those veterans just by virtue of the fact our staffing is not correct. So I'm going to stop there and give Rodney a chance to say something about that point, because there's so much more we're going to cover, I'm sure.
Right.
But let's just start with the staffing of VSOs.
So as recently as this week, my certification came in as a VSO rep. As you know, Johnnie, I've always done med boards, helping soldiers, who comes back from Iraq and Afghanistan, to try to get them into the VA system or get their medical coverages right off of active duty. Prior to me coming off in 2011, the military had a pilot program between the VA hospital and the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs and the military. And we started this pilot program in the Army that simultaneously you will receive an award from the Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, Coast Guard. And then the VA will then render a decision on what your percentage would be for the VA side, for those who are receiving concurrent receipt or vote those that are just leaving the military, period. Nevertheless, as Colonel Harrington stipulated, that there's a vast majority of us, that are lacking skills in terms of how the process goes. I mean, we are so behind in terms of doing claims, and there are a lack of VSOs, veteran service officers. And at that particular point, it prompted me to say, hey, in order to, help folks, I need to go ahead and get this certification and realistically, put my skills together and making sure that we advocate on behalf and get claims done, not expeditiously, but, to make sure that when we do them, that these servicemen and women get the right percentages that they rightfully deserve, because most of us don't know. So we're trying to do our part with NABVETS. We now have myself and another, regional commander, Nolan Lewis, who are doing claims like American Legion, NABVETS, VFW. So we're trying to dent or make an impact significantly in terms of doing claims.
Yeah, and I'm excited about this. This is one of the reasons why we're looking at our military, and we have Colonel Harrington. She's running to support these veterans out here and all the other public that's out here in this community, because, as she said, it's a need for us to support our veterans out here that have served, with that. So we need representation. We need somebody that's going to stand in the gaps. And later in this podcast, we're going to talk about some events y'all can attend to support what Colonel Harrington's talking about, and attend so we can understand where we're at with this need. We're in need of housing for our veterans. We're in need of so many things for the people that have served in these wars and came back and have seen shortcoming of what they need to do. How do they live in this environment now for it and stuff? And Colonel Harrington, if you can just explain to some of the things you have seen since you have just been around in Delaware, in a region or local area, of some of our major needs for these veterans and some of the things where we probably fall short and don't know about.
So, Johnny, let me first say that I have a very bad connection, and so I hear about every other word. That, am I going out and coming in?
Yeah, you are.
Bad connection.
Yeah, but we can.
Are you all
No. You're good. You're good. We're moving. Can you hear?
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yeah.
You're frozen.
Yes. Yeah.
So she said you're frozen, Johnny. So, but just until she comes back, the question is, what is she doing?
Okay.
No.
There you go.
No. We want to know that, how is this impact of things that need to be helped for our veterans? What is our goal to reach out to enable them to live more I say successful lives out here coming out the military?
Sure. Yeah. So, one area that we desperately need help is in mental health. And now I serve on the Governor's Challenge to End Suicide Among Veterans. And that's run by the Lieutenant Governor of Delaware. And so what they've done is they put that on the Behavioral Health Consortium, which is a great place for it to be because it has a whole body there trying to make sure things happen for different groups, different communities, and in this case for the veteran community. And what we need to do is, first of all, identify where they are. So ask the question. That's a part of the campaign, to ask the question. So when you go into a mental health facility or just a health facility, they should ask, have you served? And if you ask, or anyone in your family served, and then if you answer, of course, yes to that, then they have another list of things they go through. But it's all about connecting you to the federal and state resources, is making sure, and really a lot about it, and I think Rodney would agree with this, a lot of times, and he probably alluded to it as well, a lot of times it's about knowing. It's about, the access comes from knowing where to go, who to go to, how to connect to those services. And that's also a part of that VSO responsibility, that Office of Veteran Services responsibility. But that's an initiative of the Governor's Challenge to End Suicide, is to connect our veterans, to know who they are and where they are so that we can get to them. We can take those services to them. We can go to them and connect them with those resources. And then it is peer-to-peer connection, because a lot of times we as veterans communicate well with each other. And so having that peer-to-peer access where you can go and talk to someone who completely understands what you're going through or what you need. And so a part of that initiative is to connect veterans with other veterans. And then, of course, the third aspect of that program is to remove the lethal means access. To help remove that, lock boxes, teaching you how to secure your weapons. But in other words, just remove that lethal means access. And so mental health is, we experience as veterans, and it's particularly those of us who are combat veterans, and a lot of our military go over again and again They are deployed over and over again. And so, and they experience a lot of trauma, that sometimes go unanswered. And
Mm.
so
Wow.
we need to make sure that those veterans have access to the health care, and that they have understanding of what is open to them, what resources are available to them. And to do that, we got to go to them and connect.
That's so important right there. Now, I'm probably going to ask you, Colonel Harrington, a big question. I know you have took a big role here and a big stance, and Lieutenant Governor,
Yeah.
State of Delaware. I mean, where
Yes.
does that energy come from? I mean, what came out and said, hey, I want to go out here and I want to do this. I mean, did you see something missing or?
Well, and it's not necessarily just about veterans. It's about what's missing for all Delawareans. And again, I said at the very beginning of this that my daughter inspired me at just making sure she had a quality education. My family, my husband is a veteran. I'm a veteran. There's veterans. There people are experiencing these, and I think that we need a fresh perspective. We need new ideas. We need
Mhm.
people coming in that's going to give us some different solutions to things, that they're going to be able to think out of the box, or who have experiences like I do. And I tell you, I have a lifetime of lived experiences in
Mhm.
all kinds of areas, people with disabilities, veterans, young people, people of color, women,
Mhm.
women's have all of those areas. I have lived experiences, and so I think that we need to bring experience really matters in this case, and so we need to bring those experiences to the table, and I'm one who can absolutely do that.
Wow, that's so important there. I'm gonna ask you a hard question. Housing. We're in this housing crisis right now. People thinking, should medicine or do I pay my gas and electric bill or do
That's
I pay
right.
my rent?
Yes.
We
Yes.
have so many decisions out here right now that we're making, and coming from a financial standpoint. Tell us about the housing market, of how you see it, and some things that we might want to incorporate here to help us change the environment.
So, I don't know that it's housing, but it's affordable housing.
Housing.
People are not able to afford the housing.
Hmm.
I was talking to a young lady. She's a mother, wife and mother. She's a mother of, I believe, 3 kids. And she was telling me that she lives now up in Bear, and she came down to Middletown to look for housing. And she was telling me that it's absolutely not affordable for her.
Wow.
And so I think that's the issue. It's affordable housing. Now, there are other issues that cause people to be unhoused, or but it's mental health, a lack of employment, different issues that affect that. But really, I want to talk about having access to
Access.
affordable housing. And so we got to have some transitional housing. We need some transitional housing, more transitional housing. We have to look at our zoning laws to see if how we can, move into different areas that we have not been able to move in. We need to
Mhm.
have incentives for builders who will build these multi-unit developments where you put affordable housing inside of these developments. There's builders are they're putting up houses. Houses are going everywhere, but they're the issue is more so, I think, whether or not people can afford it. And when we're spending, we get paid and we're spending 80 and 90% of our income is going to food, then what do we
Mhm.
do about the transportation and the before and after care and all the other things that go with that? Food, because we have a problem with food insecurity. So all those things we cannot afford to do housing and all the other things. I'm going to the transportation to get to work, to maintain a car, to put gas in the car. So all those things are contributing to whether or not people are able to afford housing.
Yeah, and that's fun. And Mr. Little had a thing where you talked about the housing of building 60 units there,
Yes.
and stuff. Tell us a little bit about that, Rodney. You.
Well, Johnny, listen, I am more concerned about, our men and women living on the streets in
Mm,
Delaware. I think that that's a major concern, something that, you know, uh, Colonel Harrington is so adamant about making sure that our men and women get and receive the quality of life concern issues taken care of, as opposed to, folks trying to have us, you know, build housing. There is a shortage, as she stressed very emphatically, and as a part of her campaign strategy. And listen, I want to yield to hear more about, what she's trying to do on behalf of our men and women who served in the military, and not just that, but for all Delawareans, because
Yeah.
the bubble is about to burst.
hmm
And if you got a couple dollars, you better save on tight. You got to you got to be tight with your money right now. Don't spend frivolously on things that you don't need,
hmm
because you're going to need those funds.
Mm.
So I think that some of this I like to just sit back and listen a little bit. But like I said, hey,
hmm
um, but where there's a need across this whole state, as she stressed, for
hmm
you know housing that is affordable.
Yes.
You understand?
Yeah.
So I mean,
Georgetown did these, it's called Pallet, they called it Pallet Village. And they put,
Wow.
I want to say 40 units up. And
Oh.
I don't know the size right offhand, but that's for transition. It's for transitional housing. And initially I was talking to the Georgetown's mayor about that, and he was saying how initially people were all up in arms because you have these little small units, and it's transitional housing, and they didn't like it, the appearance. But for him, it was about taking 40 people, as he said, out of the woods but off of the streets. That's
Mm-hmm.
people have to have housing. They have to have housing, and so and there are obviously a lot of other issues tied to that. But we have to have housing. We have to have a roof over our head, and but people need to be able to afford that. So what we do, how we add transitional housing is important. How we look at the laws, the zoning laws, that's important. And how we get builders. I'm going to tell you what I would really like to do is, you know, very much like the Behavioral Health Consortium, I would
hmm
like to have a housing consortium where we
mm
bring together private and public partners, and these entities, bring them all together, and let's talk about how we resolve the housing
Housing issue.
crisis. Yeah, absolutely. And because you bring the builders in, the bankers, the people who are giving the mortgages, the people who are loaning the money, bringing all of those people like you, Johnny. People like you,
absolutely.
Johnny. Yes, bring us in there and let's sit down and talk about how we resolve this housing crisis we have. It's very important. People can't, the people living outdoors, nothing else works. If you're living outdoors, nothing else works. And there are children who are in that's not my house. There are children who are living are homeless, who are going to school from the cars. And so we have to resolve these issues for all Delawareans. In
hmm
particular, we have a moral obligation to our veterans who have served this country a time and time again for years, and they are homeless. We have a moral obligation to resolve this problem. And I think we have to, we can start day one of me being the lieutenant governor. I will immediately start shaping that housing consortium and bringing all these people together, and let's talk about how we resolve this problem.
And that is a beautiful way to put that, because that's a huge issue that where we need to come together and fight that and get that, so people can understand somebody cares. Somebody understands the need. Somebody understands what we're going through. Somebody understands how we can all come together. And for our audience out there, we welcome you here with our candidate for Lieutenant Governor, Colonel Harrington, NABVETS Commander, Rodney Little. And we're talking about some real down-to-earth issues we have in Delaware that we need to focus on, that we can be able to stand. And we have a perfect person right here, Colonel Harrington. She's talking about some things that need to change, some things that need to coexist for that to happen, some things that need to pull the people out so you can sit there and meet. And I'm going to let her talk about some of the venues that we're going to have that y'all need to be present so y'all can hear, y'all can understand that Colonel Harrington's talking about some things that might have been not mentioned before, not only to veterans, but also to education. You know, she mentioned when she opened up that, you know, education is a big thing. We fight for that today in Delaware. And guess what? Colonel Harrington standing behind it. She's a mother, as she says. She's a wife. She has a child that's going through college. And Colonel Harrington, just explain to them, you know, some of the things that our educational system probably needs we can use in Delaware.
Well, I'll start with, you know, there was a report that came out on June 10th that talked about Delaware being 45th in the nation in education, in public education. And that's a huge issue, when I think about education and what needs to happen here, you know, and a lot needs to go in that, because the problem is our students are not reading, nor are they doing math on grade level. And so and that's a big issue. We have mental health issues. We need to put psychologists and these wellness centers in every school that will speak to our children's physical and mental health. We need tutors, and we need reading specialists in school. And I'm gonna tell you, we have got to start early. And my family is a prime example of the power of early learning in the lives of our children. All of our 4-year-olds, every one of them, all of them can't do pre-K right now, but we need to have pre-K for every 4-year-old, and we need to start looking at every 3-year-old, because we have to start, and it's particularly important for English learners that they start school early. We need early learning for our kids. My youngest daughter started going to school when she was 2 years old. Now, she has disabilities, so she had access to early learning. But I'm telling you, in terms of teaching our children how to socialize, teaching our children how to respond to conflicts, teaching our children reading, starting them with reading and math, teaching our parents how to be involved in their children's education. All of that is so important in order for our students to be prepared for the workforce that will surely come later in life, and that will keep them from being homeless, and that will prepare them to go out and work in the jobs to do so. This is our education is very important. We got to look at our funding. We have 19 school districts in Delaware, 19, and 19 different ways of funding education. So it's certainly, if you have 19 different ways of funding, it certainly will not be equitable. is no possible way for it to be equitable when you have 19 different ways of 19 different authorities in shaping that funding. So we got to look at the funding. We really do. And we have to make sure our students have a quality education and that it is equitable.
Absolutely. And we had a comment out there from our audience that I said, I know talking about education, I'm trying not to stay off track, but is there any programs that help first-time business owners with funding to start up? And that's an awesome question there, Ms. Karen, that Colonel Harrington probably can answer for you, because she's probably not only talking about education, but this is going to increase the job market when we start getting into these special categories of education and guardianship, of all of that stuff. And tell us, Colonel Harrington, for these business owners out here trying to get funding and probably doing something to enhance the Delaware, what's your thoughts on that there?
So for business owners and how they get funding,
yeah, so, or starting a career, yes.
So I think a lot of that lies in community banking. And community banking, that's where you can go. These small businesses can go and have access to capital so that they can so that their businesses can thrive. And I've read somewhere, and you might know better, Johnnie or Rodney, but I think I read somewhere where it was like 90% of small businesses close within a year.
Absolutely.
Now, if it's not 90%, it's some high percentage. It's some high percentage, and a lot of that has to do with capital, but it's also having to do with knowing how to operate a business. So I'm a proponent of business, these small business incubators, where we teach you where you have these large businesses and corporations that come in and run these incubators to help teach you how to write a business plan, operations plan, and teach you where the banking, where the resources are to go get the funding, to have access to funding in order to run your businesses. So I'm very much a proponent of that. I think we have to help each other. And so we have to come together and help each other so that small businesses are thriving. And then we have a supplier diversity office here in Delaware, and that supplier diversity office gives access to government contracts. And I think that supplier diversity office has to make sure that they are going out to the businesses, and so that these small businesses will nowhere how they access the government contracts, and that they are educated on that process. I talked to someone, a Black business owner, and they've been a business owner for a while, and they talked about that supply diversity office, and they said the process is so cumbersome that even for her, and she's been dealing with them for years, so she knows the new business owner that comes in must have a difficult time. So that supply diversity office has got to get out here. That's the state office, so it's got to get out here and make sure that these business owners have access, and that they are educated on government contracting.
That is awesome. And that next comment we had coming up, that our audience is supplying. Good evening. Where do we go if you're a veteran or trying to apply for disability benefits and we're told they cannot find any records? So this is another topic that Rodney was talking about with the disability, and Colonel Harrington was speaking about it. That's one of the steps that we need to help our veterans. So,
Yes.
as you know, at NABVETS, we do have, as they said, VSOs. And Colonel Harrington, I didn't even get to explain VSOs for some of our audience out here. They probably we using these terms and probably overlooking them. But if you can break that down for them a little bit.
Yeah, I did, and I'm a toss this over to Rodney because he's sitting there, and we want him to have an opportunity to say
That's
something
right.
because this is his bailiwick. I have some bailiwick, but this is really his bailiwick. He loves this kind of stuff, man. I'm just telling you. But I will tell you that VSO, veteran service officers are they help with every aspect, health, education, pointing you in the right places, connecting you to the right resources, federal and state. They care for our veterans, and so. But I'm going to toss that over to because I'm sure Rodney has more to say about that because he is a VSO.
Yes. So I'm following, the conversation in the chat room. So I'm excited that your radio listening audience is realistically listening and have a lot of questions. But I wanted to give time to our lieutenant governor candidate to talk about it because she is a veteran, but nevertheless.
Yes.
But if you have a veteran issue, if you are a veteran, there's a website that you can go to in order to, and I'll make sure I put it in the chat, to get your military service records. You can go to the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs and you can file right there in their office to retrieve your medical records and all your service records. Nevertheless, it is incumbent upon them because some of us, their records were in a fire in St. Louis, depending upon what type of military branch or service you served in. But yet, if you have any medical issues and you feel as though that you have service-connected disabilities, then you need to reach out to me. And I can be reached at 267-249-0594. I'm not just in Delaware, Pennsylvania. We do have apparatus to make sure that if one of your chat individuals put out that, they have clients in Delaware and New Jersey, Chester, but this is global. If you got a veteran, you live in New Jersey, it doesn't matter. We can connect you with somebody that will be able to help you get your service records and also file your claims. So don't be afraid. Just give us a call and we'll make sure that we get your claims, in the system. What we do is an intent to file so that everything starts now. So it takes you up to a year to get medical records, documentations to prove that while you was in the military, and we can file that claim and everything will be retroactive from that point of our date of filing that intent to file.
Yeah. Now it said, now I live in Jersey, but most of my customers are Chester's and Delaware. So where do I start? And I would love to check out any classes.
Well, if they're talking about veterans, they can go to any veteran organization. You can go, ma'am. Did you want to finish? Okay, no, I thought you were chiming in. So you can go to any VA hospital. Normally they're on the 8th or 9th floor on the top floor, veteran service officers. They're manned every day, or you can go to the Department of Veteran Affairs and file there. So whether you're in Jersey, Chester, they're all over. American Legion, AMVET, NABVETS, Disabled Veterans of America, all of those folks will be able to file a claim on your behalf, free of charge. You don't have to go nowhere and pay for nothing. Right. Do not go to a lawyer because the lawyers are not supposed to charge you to file a claim, but they do because most of us are stuck on stupid. We want to go and act like nobody else can help us, but all of our veteran organizations have attorneys and they will fight on your behalf free of charge. All your money comes back to you. We don't charge you a dime.
And see, that's so important.
Yeah, that's very important to say. That you do not have to, you don't have to go to a lawyer. Really, these veteran organizations will help you file a claim. And I was at a conference this past weekend, and one of the deputy secretary of VA was there, and she said something that was really important to say. It was simple, but it was important to say that. And she said, the VA is no longer the VA of your parents, the way it used to be. And what she meant was the way it used to be. And you know, the reputation the VA had a not so good reputation. Um, but that's not the case now. A lot has changed. A lot has changed. Even the benefits that we are allowed are changed. There's the PACT Act, and the Compact Act. And you know, so there's been some great legislation that's been put out there, and that allows veterans to get the services they need. And you do not have to go to a lawyer and pay some money so they can get you benefits. You just don't have to do that. So please don't do that. And please go go seek your benefits if you have served.
Yes, go get it. I also want to mention something. Y'all seen it going across the street. You see Rodney's phone number if y'all want to get in contact with him about them benefits and everything. But you'll also see Debbie for Delaware on Facebook. I want you to follow that. It's some interesting topics she has. It's some interesting information she has that y'all have to see. Y'all have to understand that the things that we're talking about is a big conversation. It's events that we're going to have that you don't want to miss out on, that you got to attend and just hear what's happening in your communities, how you can change it, and find out what's happening. She was talking about the mental, and we haven't even touched on that mental illness issue that we have within our communities, you know, with some of the veterans, and people just think that these people just want to be like that. But this is a real issue that we talk about. Visit Debbie for Delaware on Facebook, NABVETS online, so you can keep up with these issues. And Debbie, as we Colonel Harrington, as we just continue to go forth, we talked about so much, and we probably have to do another episode of this. But you know, this mental illness issue. I mean, I don't think, let our audience know how important, how big that is. We have these veterans dying daily. For that, if you want to elaborate on that a little bit.
Well, we have veterans who are committing suicide, who hold in who experienced trauma and hold in and the effects of that trauma, and don't seek help, and then they commit suicide. And we have got to find a solution to that. We talked about that earlier here today, about, you know, the governor's challenge to end suicide and how we are trying to attack that issue in terms of, you know, identifying who the veterans are and what help they need, making it a part of not just our VA medical facility, but a part of our hospitals out here, Christiana Care, at the what is it, Bay Health. They had a brain cancer, but making it a part of their systems, that veterans are included in that system, because not every veteran go to the VA hospital. And some veterans don't even want to go to the VA hospital, and sometimes it's not convenient for them to go. And I mean, it's not convenient to come from Sussex County up to the VA hospital in Wilmington, for instance. So sometimes people want an alternative, and that's what the Compact Act and the PACT Act is about, giving us the opportunity to go to the civilian hospitals and doctors to care. So we can get our care in our community. You can still get your care in your community, and it's a part of your VA benefits. So you can get it right in your community. What we want to make sure is that people are getting the care that they need. That's what we want to make sure. Don't worry about whether or not you can go into a hospital and get the care and not have to worry about the pay and all of that. You can do that now. And so, and that's very important for our care. But in mental health is not, and I know we're talking about veterans tonight, but it's not just veterans; it's everywhere, and we've got to start right in the school systems. If you look at our young people and the decisions they are making about, when they respond in terms of conflict, the way they are responding, and all the killing and shooting, we are, it's just too much happening. It's too much happening, and we've got to start right in our schools with our young people in terms of mental health. That's why I think it's so very important to have the wellness centers in all of our schools, all of them. We have started to put wellness centers in, Delaware has started to put wellness centers in the schools, but not all of the schools have them. But we've got to put it in all of our schools, where in those wellness centers, we have not just physical health, not just the nurses, but we have psychologists and counselors and therapists, because we got to get it early. We have to.
Yes, we got to get them while they're young. We got to make sure that we put now best foot forward to support these situations. And as we talk to our Colonel Harrington about things that's happening around here, Colonel Harrington, is there some events that you might be speaking at that the audience probably need to come and hear and just listen up to some of the things that some of this knowledge that you're spreading that's going to help in our communities, some things that we probably need to know about. And a lot of folks probably tonight didn't even had no aware of some of the things that's going on around, but we'd like the opportunity that if you have some dates or any reminders you can stick out there.
So I'm going to have to come back and give you some reminders, because I don't have, any firm dates. I do know that we are planning a health forum. It's not really a forum. Rodney, what would you say? It's a health, I wouldn't say summit, but anyway, we're going to come together to talk.
It's about prostate health. So we're having a health fair.
Health fair.
And right, that Colonel Harrington is sponsoring, and NABVETS is sponsoring for, a lot of us men who probably have experienced prostate cancer. So we're going to have the VA out as well to do claims, for veterans who are out there, but every, sort of health agency out there to deal with some of the issues that our men and women experience, and, from, cancer, you name it, burn pits, we're going to have them out there for you.
Now, the tentative date, exactly. Now, the tentative date is, I want to say the tentative date is August the 10th, but we want to come back to you and give you the actual confirmation for that date. But we do plan to do it. We're right now we're planning maybe somewhere around in the Dover area, so that people can come from the north and south, and so the happy medium is Dover. But we're going to talk about and yes, prostate cancer is going to be a big focus. But we also going to, as Rodney mentioned, we're going to have some other health providers out there that provide for all kinds of health. In fact, we want to have the mobile unit, Christiana Care's mobile unit out there. And so that they're looking at blood pressure, diabetes, they test for quite a few things. So we're looking at having a big health fair that I will be there. Well, first of all, we're sponsoring it. The campaign team is sponsoring it. So we're going to be doing that. And I'm certainly going to be speaking there as well about the things we need to do in Delaware and the things I want to get involved in as the Lieutenant Governor.
That is so awesome. As we said, you see the ad running across. If you want to get in touch with Rodney via email, it's called nabvetsde.chapt94@gmail.com. Then we have, if you're requesting your military records, archives.gov. We're providing this information. Colonel Harrington's given some information. That health fair, come out, prepare for it. We'll get the date from her. We're bringing her back. I want y'all to know we're bringing her back. We're going to have some more dates, some more information, So y'all know what's going on out here. Not only, as she said, not only for the veterans, but for everyone to
So,
come out and join.
And Johnny, in closing, because for me, it's going to be, we're calling for folks to come out to the Boulevard, and the Boulevard is going to be at 1036 Lafayette Lane in Dover, Delaware, on Thursday from 6 to 8 to speak with Colonel Harrington on behalf of her campaign. You got any questions? I see, the radio listening audience are talking about some very key information that they would like answers to. I know this is such a short time when it comes to mental health, when it comes to education, when it comes to housing. And this is for all of Delawareans. It's not just talking about veterans, but I wanted to give Debbie a little bit more time to even add my 2 cents. But we will be there from 6 to 8. We're going to try to have a little, hors d'oeuvres for you and just have some fun in the chat and chew with Colonel Debbie Harrington. So please, if you're not doing nothing, I would ask that you come out and give us an opportunity to get up close and personal with Colonel Harrington, our next Lieutenant Governor in the state of Delaware.
Yes.
Right.
So we can pass that on.
Yeah, that's going to be a good night.
This Thursday.
We want you this Thursday. Come out to the Boulevard
on the
in Lafferty Lane. Yes, come on out, and we're gonna all be there, and we're gonna talk about also because in order to run for lieutenant governor, it takes people and it takes money. It really does. And so if you come out, people, please come out and support. And you can ask me any question. As a friend of mine always say, ask her the hard questions. You can ask any question you want. We can have a conversation about whatever issues that you think I ought to be talking about as a candidate for lieutenant governor, and I ought to be looking to resolve as your next lieutenant governor.
And I'm so excited that we had this opportunity. Colonel Harrington, Mr. Little, we're thankful that y'all came on. Our listening audience provided some insight that they're listening. They want to know what's happening in Delaware. They want to support. They want to understand that, hey, we have someone that's going to listen to our needs in Colonel Harrington, that's going to address some issues that we might have and provide us with some insights, some things we didn't know, and some resources we have that will help us go forth and make us better in this community. And it's going to be a challenge as we educate our community and our local Delawareans on stuff that needs to happen as we get ready for this next step in this journey of Lieutenant Governor for Colonel Harrington. I want to honestly thank you. I feel honored that I had the opportunity to bring y'all both on and to listen to our audience and have a great evening. Y'all have the information. Y'all know how to reach out. If you need anything. This is still Creative Financing with JB with the vets. We thank y'all for attending. We appreciate y'all, and we look forward to seeing y'all on Thursday.
Hey, Johnnie, can I? I know you put Debbie for Delaware on Facebook, and that's correct. But can I also guide people to DebbieForDelaware.com? That's the website as well. DebbieForDelaware.com, and you can also sign up to volunteer there as well. You can donate there as well, and any amount will do. But you can go to DebbieForDelaware.com to find out more information, and you can actually find out more about me as well and my experiences. I would say, and Rodney always get on me about not telling everybody all that I have done, the experiences I've had, and I'm certainly not going to try to end your podcast. Taking up so much time but talking about me. But I will say to your audience that that I have a lot of experiences. I really do. I've served for 25 years for some of the top generals in the services, and not just in the Army, because I did a joint service. I told you all that earlier. I worked with the Navy for a year, for 2 years, performing my joint service assignment. But I've worked for NATO. I've worked for West Point. I've worked for the Department of Army, the Department of Defense. So I've done a lot of things. It really matters. Our next lieutenant governor is the first successor to the governor. The first successor to the governor. I remind you of New York. New York's lieutenant governor was lieutenant governor one day, and she was governor the next day. So the person that we put in that seat must be and must have some lived experiences that will help direct their decision making. And believe me, I have a lot of lived experiences. So when I make decisions about the things that affect your lives, it won't be guesswork. It'll be because in all likelihood, I have had that experience. So it will be fully knowledgeable. So I encourage you to go to debbiefordelaware.com, learn more about me. Please volunteer if you can to help the campaign. We need to win this race, and I'm looking forward to being our next lieutenant governor.
Thank y'all so much for attending tonight. We appreciate you. We will see you next week, and we will bring Debbie back. Y'all have a good evening.
Good evening.